Hi everyone, my name is Sadie and today I will be discussing The Final Empire in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. Now this is actually the first book in a fantasy trilogy, and the story takes place in a world where 8,000 years before, and it was prophesied of a hero who would defeat this great evil, which he eventually failed to do so. Now in the present storyline, there is ash constantly falling from the sky, which it appears as if basically it was snowing, and by the night mist starts to appear. Now in the Empire, it has been ruled for about 1,000 years by this immortal / god figure called the Lord Ruler. Now in this world, there are two different types of social class. We got the normal common people, which are called the Scars, who are basically enslaved, and we got the nobles. Now in this story, or in this novel, we have two main characters. One of them is Vin, the 16-year-old Scar who forms part of this thieving crew, in which she eventually meets this man called Kelsier, he is our second main character or protagonist of this story. Now, Kelsier invites Vin to join his thieving group, which this crew has actually taken a job which consists of overthrowing the Lord Ruler. Now, I guess with these details that I've said, or these facts that I said about the story, I'm pretty sure that you can tell that this book is actually, well, it's pretty interesting. It's actually really interesting, and it's actually good. So I think this would be all for the non-spoiler section. So I guess if you don't want to obviously be spoiled, I think you should stop now, pause, leave, and come back later after you read. And we're back. So first off, I want to mention that this is actually the very first Brandon Sanderson book I've actually ever read. I guess if thanks for my cousin, I would have never actually really picked up the book, I guess. I mean, I've heard a lot about Brandon Sanderson, so obviously when I saw the book, I was actually very curious about. So once I started picking it up and I started reading, I really couldn't put it down. So I guess we'll continue on to our discussion part. Okay, so actually in the first few pages of the book, I was actually a bit confused as to what was going on in the story. I mean, we started off with a few terms like the Obligator, the Inquisitors, and stuff like that, and then allomancy. So I really didn't actually really understand allomancy at first, but it wasn't until actually Vin meets Kelsier, or more likely Kelsier goes and seeks out Vin, that we actually learn more about this, and how we also learn how Vin is a Mistborn, which I think it's pretty cool. Her being a Mistborn after all her what she's been through, or like her background, like the stuff that happened with her brother, how they treated her in the thief crew that she was from. So when Kelsier decides to teach her, because he's also a Mistborn, I think it's actually pretty cool the fact that she has so very little knowledge that it actually helps some readers to understand more about this magic system. I don't know about the rest of the other people, but I guess when it comes to explaining this, I guess it's a bit difficult kind of to explain, but like once you actually read this novel, you actually start to understand it. It's actually really complex, but the way it was explained in the book, I think it was really good. I was able to understand it, which is something I really like. Also, another thing that we see is that not much romance is actually, I guess, dealt with in this story, which I guess, seeing how the story goes and it goes on developing, I actually like it, how there's like actually not very little romance, but just not as much as you would expect in what would be like kind of like a YA book, like where usually they all focus in a romance and stuff like that. But I actually like how it was mostly focused into the plan of overthrowing the Lord Ruler, which, as it was mentioned before and as we know, is that a bunch of there's always been a rebellion. Every time that an uprising has started, it was obviously easily squashed, easily obviously they were able to get rid of it. Practically, as we keep on reading, we actually realize that these little rebellion groups, or these people that always try to overthrow the Lord Ruler, were actually not really much of a big threat to the Lord Ruler. Like when Vin goes and actually meets him for the first time, or goes and sees him, not because she actually really wanted to, but when she actually confronts him, we can read, and I don't know about other readers, but I think you can actually feel just how powerful this guy was. Another thing that I actually really like was Kelsier's planning, like the way how he would come up with these plans, and he I don't know, I guess I would have never actually thought of it like those plans that he would actually make. How I really like Kelsier. Like, he's like one of my favorite characters, which I was actually really sad to find out when he actually died. I was like, I wasn't exactly in a state of shock, but I was getting close to it. But that was just something I wasn't expecting. I don't know. I guess in my opinion, I would have liked him if he was to die, that if he would have died like almost a bit, like he would have waited a bit more, cause I don't know, I just saw how Kelsier's death devastated Vin a lot. Like, because of him, she has started trusting people. I know that at the beginning of the book, she really didn't trust people at all, basically because of how the thief crew that she had been part of before she joined Kelsier's thieving group, well, basically treated her bad. It's like as if they really didn't need her at all. And obviously with the memories that we see through her, is we also see how her brother would always not exactly treat her right either, and how she also mentions that he betrayed her, which I really disliked her brother at for throughout most of the novel, but and like towards the end, or mostly till the end, was until we actually find out what actually happened to her brother, and how he basically did all the, like, basically all the stuff that he did was basically just to protect Finn, because it was mentioned how they were when they had captured him, how they would torture him just to get information about Ben, because they would actually want to know her whereabouts and stuff like that, and how he actually refused to talk just to protect his sister. I mean, even though I guess if at first it didn't seem like he actually loved his sister, I think he actually really deeply loved his sister. So I guess to the way how I feel towards Vin's brother, it changed towards the end. Also, I actually like how, I guess, the relationship that Vin and Elaine developed, or was actually, I really like how that developed too. It wasn't like straight up as in like a straight up romance relationship, but you can see how each of them start developing feelings. We see how this is obviously very new to Vin, and how at first Kelsey was a bit opposed to her being or getting close to Vin, since he's obviously a Ventor. So I guess that was actually a pretty fun read too. I actually really like Elan. I really liked how his humor is sometimes. I actually like the fact that when she was up in the balcony, how Elaine came then, and then he was saying how she had actually stolen his reading spot, because when he usually tends to get bored on those balls. So I think I actually like how that started. Another thing that I see here is how we've been mentioning before, how Kelsey was really important for Vin's character development. How she was really like distrustful at first, and how little as the story progressed, how she kept on changing a bit. She became a bit stronger, a bit more independent, I guess, in some sort of way. I actually liked I also liked how she got along with basically all the other crew members. It was just, I guess it was weird and I guess fun, and I actually liked how she got along with a crew which is basically all comprised of men. I guess if I was her in her place, I don't know how I would feel. I don't know if I would cope the same way she did, but I guess because of the different circumstances and stuff like that. Also, one thing that talking about deaths now, one thing that I actually don't really feel sorry or bad about is about Yeaton. Well, talking about Yeaton, like I was saying, I actually didn't really actually feel bad, even though I know he was actually married, and I think he had, I'm not sure, don't remember exactly if he had a daughter or a son, but either way, I don't know, I guess, at some point, I guess he kinda annoyed me, how he wanted to rush things, how, he really questioned most of the times, Kelsier's plans of overthrowing the Lord Ruler. I actually thought how, Vin also played good her part in the planning of the steps of how to throw the Lord Ruler. I actually thought it was pretty interesting how she actually came up also too with the fact how they started making the houses turn on against each other, how it would actually serve as a distraction, so they could eventually reach to what they wanted to do. Also, another thing that I actually want to mention too is when Marsh died. Oh, he didn't exactly die, but like when I read that scene, I actually really thought he was dead. All those details about so much blood. And now we actually have to remember that Marsh actually died before Kelsier, so I think in a way too, it was actually sad that Kelsey never found out that his brother died. And I think what was more shocking than Marsh actually dying was the fact that he became an Inquisitor. Like the fact that he basically, I don't know, I guess he had to replace his eyes with these two types of iron or metal sticks that protrude from his eyes to his head, which I really don't know how that actually works when it just sticks from like when they're inside when they're your eyes and they stick out from your head, which was pretty weird. I guess maybe the next books will probably find out more about how the Inquisitors actually work. I mean, it was actually it was kind of explained in the book, but I guess in more details, I guess in other books it would actually be more explained. We still have the other two books to. Well, actually, I still have the other two books to read, so that's where I'm gonna see if we learn more about that too. Also, I guess it was a bit cruel. Like Kelsey didn't get to find out that his brother was actually alive. I mean, like he too also lost like a lot of people. Like he lost Mare and all and first, and then he thinks he's lost his brother, which is actually his brother. I mean, even though they didn't get along, but I still think like he still loved his brother. But I guess overall, I actually liked how. Well, to me, it seemed like at some point Kelsier saw Vin as a daughter, because like in one of the letters that was given to Vin after Kelsier dies, it was he actually mentions the fact how Mare always wanted a daughter. So I guess in a way the way he sometimes treated her, because I'm gonna say this, he didn't actually really treat her much like a daughter, but like there was moments when I read where it felt like he actually really, like where you could tell that he actually really cared for her. I mean, maybe a bit more than just a crew member, more like a daughter. And I think it was actually it was unique to see two main characters interact like the way Vin and Kelsier did. Like two different types of age range and stuff like that. Like Vin's 16, or she's actually turning 17 because that's what she told told Kelsier. But like Kelsier is like, I guess he's like in his 40s or like late 30s. So like these age difference too. Another thing, like when at the end when Vin actually went against the Lord Ruler, like I think what was actually, well, maybe not creepy, but considering the whole the way how the story is going, like you would think that with killing the Lord Ruler, like everything ends, and so it's like, now what? But then we find out at the end, like his last dying words is like he's like, you fools, like all that I've done is to actually keep the great evil from actually doing more damage and coming into this world and stuff like that. So I guess we still have to see that how it actually plays in the second book. I really wonder how that's gonna happen, because like in this book, and mostly the main antagonist is the Lord Ruler. Like you think that once he's dead, like it's over. But no, we see that the story still has to continue. We still have a lot of other things to see, like the continuation of the rebellion, because like the capital fell, but we also see that there are other cities that have also their armies that will eventually come to the capital and try to take over, since the Lord Ruler is no longer obviously ruling the empire. So I guess for now this is all. So thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!